Welcome to the Breaking Burnout for Nurses podcast. I'm Bonnie Kitata, your host, and I'm so glad to have you back.
I'm
I know
glad to be
I've
back.
seen that. Maureen Metzger, she's back today. But today we're going to talk about, she's a CNE provider in Florida. So we're going to pick her brain about that. So, first of all, how did you even start thinking about being a CNE provider? Because I know you're a nurse coach.
Mhm.
So what
Well,
got you started in that also?
interestingly, it was in networking and connections. And so, one of the things that's really important if you are really even thinking about, what else is available to me as a nurse? It's so important to network, to learn what other nurses are doing, how they are leveraging their expertise. And so, one of the connections that we have in common
Mhm,
is Teresa Sanderson. And so,
mhm.
we had many a conversation, and I did some webinars for her on her Thriving Nurse Network site. And then she kept challenging me, like, you seem to really enjoy this. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you, in the educational space at all? And I said, oh, I'm not a faculty person anymore. Yeah. And so she really kind of challenged me to think outside the box. And she's like, well, just because you don't have a faculty position or a
Mhm.
formal title does not mean you can't teach. You love it, right? I'm like, I love it. And don't you do some teaching and some education and informing when you're coaching? I'm like, yep. And she's like, so isn't it a natural extension? You could create webinars and presentations based on the topics that your clients are bringing to you in your coaching. And that was like a light bulb going off for me because
Mhm.
I thought, oh, yes, I create a lot of content. I create a lot of resources for my coaching clients all around teaching them how to get into alignment, about decision making, communication skills, like all of these things, all these relational skills. And I thought, I had never thought about that I could actually become an authorized provider and
Mhm.
I could teach these things. And so it felt like a natural progression from or add on, if you will, to my coaching practice. I can
Mhm.
actually create educational experiences for contact hours, which nurses need anyway,
Mhm.
but I can have my topics be all things like cultivating belongingness, cultivating moral resilience, preventing burnout, managing boundaries. I have a whole series of 6 courses all around communication and decision making in clinical, academic situations and in life. And so I basically took those issues that people are coming to me with in the coaching space, and I figured out how can I create an educational experience that doesn't just diagnose the problem, if you will, but actually gives action steps, things that people can do right away, and take that away. And so that's sort of how that happened. It was like someone challenging me that of a preconceived
Beautiful.
notion that I had, right? And now here I am, and I have to say I love it.
Yes.
It feels really creative, and it feels so aligned with what I'm doing in the coaching space.
Well, we were talking a little earlier about how sometimes we just get our CEs because they're required and we just get through it. Oh, I need 3 more CEs, or you just kind of run through a course just so you get the credit. But in your case, you are able to present courses that are the the nurses want, they're interested in, they're requesting it, and you present it in a way that is so interesting and very useful, and you could help the nurses along the way and benefits the clients in the long run. Excuse me, patients in the long run too. So
Right.
it's a win-win-win situation.
Yeah, and that's how I look at it. Like, one of the things that I loved about teaching, in my faculty role was I love to take really complex things and make them accessible to people. And so I love that creative process of taking something like moral resilience, for example,
Mhm.
and explaining it in a way and using stories to convey that. And then,
Beautiful.
sort of giving people, here's some action steps that you can take to address burnout, to cultivate moral resilience or belongingness or whatever the topic is. And so for me, that's actually, well, maybe I'm letting my nerd side show, but I just find that to be really motivational and fun for me, is to kind of create that and make that accessible. And then I use my clients, their experiences and what they have to help me tweak it, because they'll give me feedback of, oh, here's some of the things that really helped me. And then I, just like with patients, right? As nurses,
Right.
when you have a lot of experience in the patient setting, whatever your practice area is, over time you learn. Like if you're a cancer nurse, for example, your patients teach you, hey, here are the things that really help me manage chemotherapy-induced nausea and vomiting. And over time, you have this whole arsenal of tools. And so you can use creating contact courses for contact hours in the same way. You look at it as, here's some tools that I can help nurses put in their toolbox that can help them level up in their careers or in their relationships at home.
Yeah, it must be so gratifying for you that you actually you see how much it helps your nurses, and you get the feedback from them, and you realize that, wow, you are doing so much for them, and making it they're learning, but in a very enjoyable way.
Yeah.
And practical too, because they can take that information and use it to in their work, and actually and as an extension into their lives, because communication is everywhere, right? Not just at work, and not just with your patients, but with your families when you come back home.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Because how you show up anywhere is how you show up everywhere. That's one of my favorite
Yes.
mantras.
Oh,
And
I love
so,
that. Yes.
we'd like to think that we can be a rock star at work and it's separate from home, or vice versa, keep home at home and but it doesn't work that way.
No,
Because
it
if
it
you're a
just
holistic human
sneaks through
being,
there.
it's neat. Yes, it does.
It's
For
very
good or
sneaky.
bad, right? For good or
Mhm.
bad. When things are really going well at home, that kind of can bleed into your work life, and vice versa. But when things are not going well, especially at work, it's really hard to feel like you're leaving it at work. It just kind of
Yeah.
leaks into all areas of your life. And so when people can learn how to thrive in one area, they're going to thrive in all areas of their life.
So, give us some examples, another example of a course that you offer, a CE course that you might not think of it as a typical CE course, but that is very helpful for your nurses.
Yeah, and so one that one concept that I started, I actually did research on it when I was on faculty. So pedagogical research was just research on the science of teaching and learning. And so one of the questions that I had when I was teaching is, we're doing all of these things to sort of promote a sense of inclusion and belonging, and to get nurses ready, kind of socialize them into profession and get them ready to transition into practice. And so I really thought, like, we're doing all this stuff, but we're not actually looking at outcomes and trying to figure out what are some of the strategies that we're using in the classroom setting that are really helpful on their self-confidence and their self-efficacy, and their, what they're learning about themselves, and their, self-confidence in not only their learning, but their
Mhm.
ability to handle situations. And so I started that whole line of research of looking at specific teaching strategies and connecting them to student outcomes in the academic and clinical setting. And the data were so compelling. This concept called belongingness, cultivating that sense of belongingness,
Oh, wow.
had amazing impact on students' academic achievement
Mm.
and also their clinical performance.
Ooh.
And so it turns out it matters deeply to students that they matter to us as teachers. And then I found, as I kind of expanded my research, oh, that is actually a human need. It's actually in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that it's true in the work setting as well, that when people feel a sense of belonging, a freedom to show up as their authentic selves and knowing that they're valued for the contributions they're making and they're in lockstep with the overall mission of their organizations. They're proud to work there. They feel a part
Mhm.
of something bigger than themselves.
Mhm.
It unleashes their potential for excellence. And so that is an example of a course that we don't really think of belongingness, of
Oh, right.
cultivating belongingness as an important leadership skill in nursing, but it is such an important leadership skill.
Oh, wow.
And so I was so just blown away by the results and the students and we did focus groups as well as surveys. So we had a lot of qualitative data, word
Mhm.
data, and just hearing from the students how deeply impactful it was for them to feel like they mattered, that they were bringing something unique into the space, and that they were okay to be learners, and that they felt proud that they were entering nursing. Just it was really unbelievable. And so that's an example of what you can do as a CE provider. I have another course on cultivating moral resilience, because for me, that's the antidote to. So we talk a lot about moral trauma, moral distress, moral injury, burnout. These are
Right.
all things that are very real. And so I thought, well, how can I help, instead of just stopping at the diagnosis
Mhm.
of moral trauma, moral injury, what can we do to actually turn that around? And the answer was, well, we can cultivate moral resilience, right? There are things that people can do individually to put themselves in a stronger position, that holistic self care, the knowing your values. There are things that leaders and organizations can do to normalize discussions, to prioritize relationships, to teach around soft skills. And so, that was another example of taking something I saw happening in the clinical setting, something that you don't normally see for contact hours, and being able to make that connection. Hey, when we do this, we actually improve nurses' ability to show up in the way they want to, in the way that they're capable of in their jobs, and show that there's a direct correlation between having a team that is a very resilient together, that has a strong sense of belongingness and cohesion. People feel like, hey, my team members have my back, and
Mhm.
patient outcomes. And so again, that's the beauty of being a CE provider, is you can make the case that this kind of information for nurses and skills that go along with it actually is better for patient care. It's going to help you with nurse retention, but it also is going to really help you hit your markers to deliver the highest quality patient care. And so I think, I imagine that's something that you are learning as well on your
Mhm.
journey toward
Mhm.
becoming a CE provider, is we can take things that we have a passion for,
Yes.
problems that we see in our world, and we can actually create an experience that people can, yes, they can learn something, but they actually can have tools to put in their toolbox, take into the clinical setting or wherever they're practicing, and use those things. And that feels pretty darn good.
It does. It really is a kind of amazing that we can use that information, and it's stuff we need anyway.
It's
But
stuff we
we
need
also
anyway.
we also can give you credit for it. And
Yes.
I do want to give a shout out to Teresa Sanderson, because we both met in her
Yes.
course, um, and so we'll have to have her on.
We'll have to,
Aha,
yes.
she's stuck now. She has to be on my show. But anyway, Maureen. So Maureen, what is the name of your course, your CE provider website, so that people can get into your classes and your courses?
Well, that's a work in progress. And so I am in the
Hmm.
process now of, formally launching. So I have many courses I've created. I also have some free courses and things that I've put out there that people can just reach out to me, and I'm happy to give them any of the free courses that I've created. And so I'm not sure about the formal launch date. Sometime in May,
Okay,
or maybe
great.
early June, we'll have the formal launch for
Perfect.
those, for all those courses. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Okay, so the best thing I think is to follow you on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
because you'll keep us updated with that. So, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. And that's what we're, one of the things that we're working on with Teresa. And like for many people out there will be able to relate. In the middle of all this, I had to delay my launch of that part of my business, that arm of my business, because I moved my parents, who are both
Oh,
close to
yes.
90, to assisted living near me. And that has been a monumental undertaking and required me to step away a little bit from my business, not completely, but a little bit, in order to get mom and dad settled. Now they are settled now, and so we're back on track with the business launch.
Yes, that was a huge. I heard your story and I kind of followed you on that. So that was a big undertaking.
Yes,
All
and
right.
still is.
Yes, it's going to be ongoing. Well, thank you again, Maureen, for being on my show. Maureen Metzger and on LinkedIn. So follow her and keep up with her as she does her CNE provider journey. That'll be coming pretty soon. And so we'll keep up with you on that and follow you through that
That'll be
too.
great. And I already am doing presentations, like live workshops and things like that. So if anyone is a leader or they want to talk about having me come and speak or present, they can certainly do that. You don't need to wait until that arm of the website is launched.
Yes, and Maureen is fantastic. She will make whatever your presentation that you need for your audience. She can make it specifically for you. And she just got done doing one in Minnesota for the.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun.
Yeah, so she can make it
Yeah.
specifically for the needs of your audience. So keep her in mind for that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yes. All right. So thank you for joining us on Breaking Burnout for Nurses podcast. And we'll see you back next Monday at 10 a.m. because we are breaking burnout here.
Yay.
Thank you. Bye.